I don't think that there is a person, whether they be a Christian or religious or non-religious, who would say that they would want to live their life as a fool. I think everybody has a desire to live a wise and prosperous life. And so that is what we have been studying, trying to heed the Bible's call to live a life of wisdom. And so we see, though, that even in terms of living a life of wisdom, that um, there are wise sayings and purported wise beliefs that are not even from the Bible. And many of us know these particular sayings, and I think we can have our put our slides up. And there's several of these particular sayings, and I think Ben Franklin was one who happened to be very prolific at wise sayings. But one of them is, haste makes waste. Have you ever heard that one? Probably. Haste makes waste. Well, haste makes waste would, I think, make sense, because if you're not thoughtful, if you just kind of jump into a situation hastily, you can get yourself in trouble. So it's a call to us to kind of think through, our life or how we are going to be just approaching the situations. There's also the phrase, a penny saved is a penny earned. Now that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense today, because a penny isn't really worth a whole lot. But the truth behind the saying is that we should save our money. If we find a penny or money on the street, we should save it. And in a sense, that's earned, or it's a calling for us to be wise in the stewardship of our money, and that we should continue to seek to have wise savings and wise investments. So that's another saying. And then there's a third saying, which is, the early bird catches the worm. I think for those that are early birds, this is a very loved saying. For some others of us who are night owls, maybe it's not as encouraging, but nonetheless, the early bird catches the worm is a saying that, if you can get up early, if that bird gets up early, they can be first in line in order to get the worm and to get a good start to their day. And then there's another saying, kind of run through these here, which a lot of people think is actually from the Bible. And it's the saying, God helps those who helps themselves. You probably heard that. I've heard people quote that basically as scripture. Like, yeah, I try to seek the Lord, and I really believe that God helps those who helps themselves. And I'm like, well, for one, that's not in the Bible. And number two, it's not biblical. It's not that we shouldn't take some personal responsibility, but I think it would be more correct to say that God helps those who rely on him. God helps those who trust in him. God helps those who seek his grace in all situations. That would probably be a better way of wording it, but that's not the common expression. So, I mean, for these common expressions, these kind of worldly expressions, they are, we can find some benefit to them, maybe or maybe not, but there's some things that we can consider, and some things can be helpful. But biblically, we see that there are wise sayings in the Bible, and we've been discussing some of these wise, seeking wisdom in our lives. We began with a exploration of Solomon, who desired wisdom over anything. God asked him, "What do you want now that you are king?" And basically, his desire was for wisdom. And so that is something that we can hopefully desire for ourselves. And then we explored last week that the foundation of wisdom is the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. And so we're called in our lives to first seek the Lord, seek his wisdom, and seek to live our lives in a way that we just think through and filter through all the situations of our life through a biblical lens. Now, today we're going to be looking at some different aspects of wisdom, and we're going to be doing that through an exploration of some wise sayings in the Psalms. And we will be looking at Psalm 22, and Vivian will lead us in our reading of that. So, Vivian, if you can take it away.
Actually, it's Proverbs 22.
I'm sorry, Proverbs, yes.
1 through 2. That's okay. Psalms is good too, but these are in Proverbs. A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Rich and poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. And then we flip over to verses 24. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. Do not be one who shakes hands in pledge or puts up security for debts. If you lack the means to pay, your very bed will be snatched from under you. Do not move an ancient boundary stone set up by your ancestors. And do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. Back to you.
Praise the Lord for his word. The first thing that we see in this passage is that we are to seek to have a good reputation. And the verse is from verse 1. A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. And so we are to seek a good name. I like this quote from the devotion from Table Talk magazine, which is from Ligonier Ministries, and it says this: "It takes a lifetime to build, but it can be destroyed in an instant by one bad decision. It enables even the least influential members of society to enjoy respect, but the lack of it causes us to see those who wield great power as fools and reprobates." We are talking, of course, about a good name. And so a good name, as we see from this quote, is it can be held by those that are of great influence. It could be held by those that are poor, that are on the lower spectrum of society, who have no influence, but yet maybe they have influence in their circle or sphere. But a good name is powerful. A good name is sought after. And so that is something that we desire to continually seek. Now, I wanted to give an illustration of this, because if someone loses their good name, loses their reputation, it can cause a lot of backlash and maybe some trials in their life. Now, this particular person, her name is her YouTube or Instagram name is, I think, Ravenna. And so she is a vegan influencer, a young vegan influencer. At least she was, because you see on the right-hand side, the picture where she's eating, she was caught eating fish. And for vegans, you wouldn't eat fish. And so someone snapped a picture of her, and it got on the internet. And basically, she was exposed as a hypocrite, because she was saying, well, everyone has to live this vegan diet. You know, no meat and no dairy and no fish and no eggs, but she was eating fish. So what happens oftentimes, people don't want to have a bad reputation, and so on the left-hand side, she made what's very common. I've seen this all the time now on YouTube and the like, on various social media. It's a confession video. In the past, confession, for those of us who are believers, we confess to the Lord, we can confess to each other, we can have confession in some denominations to a priest, or people can come to confess to me and we can pray together. But now the common thing is to have a confession video, and then she explained the reasons why she basically stumbled and began or ended her vegan diet. I would say probably one of the main reasons was in her name is Raw. So she had the most extreme of a vegan diet, which is basically just not even cooking things, just eating raw things. And it basically messed up her digestive system. So, I mean, it's understandable. There's nothing right or wrong of going on or off diets. If she would have just been transparent, I think people would have been very accepting of that. But she was basically caught in a hypocrisy. And this happens all the time. People will get caught in hypocrisies. Someone may say something that they regret, or maybe say something that is that just maybe is racist, and then they will often do an apology, and then depending upon the situation, maybe they'll go into some kind of a therapy, or maybe some detox if it's drug related, and then so slowly they'll begin to try to gain their reputation back, because as we all know, reputation is important, and so we're called to seek to have a good reputation. And so we do that by trying to live an upright life, a holy life, a pleasing life to the Lord, where we seek to live out the truth of His Word, and in doing so, we can be light and salt to the earth. The second the second truth that we see, proverb, is that of being of equal value. And here we see the wise saying, "Rich and poor have this in common: the Lord is maker of them all." Well, this is when you kind of look at that, well, that is, of course, a very logical statement. Rich and poor were all made by the Lord. But I think the underlying truth to this, or the underlying principle, and that's what Proverbs are. We discussed that last week. Proverbs are principles for living. They're not necessarily promises that if you do something, then you know, the proverb may say, well, if you do this, you will have, an abundance of riches. Well, some people may not ever have an abundance of riches, or you might think of riches in another way. But these are still principles to follow and principles to reflect on, and how they apply to our lives. And in this particular case, I think it's a reminder to everyone that we're all created equal. Each of us are the same in the sight of the Lord. And so whether one is rich or one is poor, there is equal value. And we should treat each other accordingly. We shouldn't treat rich people or powerful people or popular people better than we would those that are poor, or maybe just maybe socially awkward, or whatever category they might be in. We are to treat people with dignity and value. And so that is our calling. One of my friends was really good at this. She would actually, if she was in any kind of context, we would be at a restaurant, or maybe we would be at school, and she would seek to talk to those that were probably on the lower end of the employment ladder for that context. So if we were at school, she would seek out maybe the cleaning people, to talk to them, to see how they're doing. If she was at a restaurant, she would seek to talk to a dishwasher, or to be very friendly to the wait staff. So she always was really good at kind of identifying those that weren't the popular, that weren't the powerful, but those that maybe were even at the lower rung, or dispossessed in some way, and really reached out to them. I never thought that we would be in a political time that we would be in a discussion of which lives mattered, whose lives mattered. Now, this whose lives mattered is from this is from a ministry, Boaz Ministry, I believe, and Boaz Ministry seeks to help children that are basically distressed or orphaned, and they try to find them homes or try to help them to lead lives that that are more normal, and to help them to lead successful lives. So they're working with children from all over the world, from all different races, and so I think in the context of a biblical context, saying all lives matter is certainly a biblical statement. However, in our day and age now, all lives matter is a political statement, and it's a negative political statement. If someone says all lives matter, then they would basically be perceived at this point as a racist, because by saying all lives matter, you're saying Black lives don't matter so much, and then you get yourself in trouble. So I would certainly say that Black lives do matter, but also Navajo lives matter, and Asian lives matter, and Asian Indian lives matter. So in a sense, all lives matter, but maybe at a particular point in time, if there is a group, say Black Lives Matter, that is undergoing particular hardship or persecution, I do think it's okay to proclaim that particular statement like Black Lives Matter. But I think it's important biblically to know that God values everyone the same. Now, I came across this article just the other day, and it is an article that of some young Asian Americans who did a survey to see how many of their young adults and high school students were being somehow discriminated against. And when you look at this particular headline, it says, "Ching Chong, you have Chinese virus." This is basically what someone in their survey reported being bullied. They had bullies followed this Asian American kid home and started saying this racist epithet, and so and began to cough on the person, because they were basically like, you deserve to catch the coronavirus because of your race. And it said 1 in 4 Asian American youths experienced racist bullying. And so in this context, I would say Asian American lives matter, or Asian lives matter. And I think that if there's someone who is especially experiencing some kind of distress or bullying or discrimination, we need to help them overcome the situations that they're in, or try to comfort them, or help them to find some kind of relief. And so this particular issue, I think, hits a little closer home because we're in an Asian American community. And I hope that none in our church have experienced such racism and bullying, but nonetheless, in our current context, there's just a lot of racism and a lot of bad things going on. But hopefully we can help uphold those that are weak, and also we can encourage maybe our society to live in a better way as we model that. So that's our first, we're kind of running through. I think we're going to be looking at 4 different wise sayings, 4 different aspects. And the next one is that of the right friends. And so I excuse us. I keep getting stuck on my PowerPoint here. Okay, so the first 2 sayings were actually the first 16 verses that we looked at we didn't read the whole thing, but of Proverbs 22. I think the first 16 verses were Proverbs of Solomon, and we've already been introduced to Solomon a couple weeks ago, and most of us know Solomon as a great king. Then it goes on, I believe in verse 17, there's a series of 30 sayings, or 30 wise sayings, and these are anonymous sayings, most likely not from Solomon, because whenever Solomon said something, he was identified in the Proverbs. But these are also wise sayings that obviously were embraced by the Jewish religion, by God. They were endorsed by God. They found its way into the Proverbs, into the scriptures. And this particular saying: "Do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. And so this is a calling to be careful about the friends we keep. If we begin to hang out with those that are hot-tempered, that may rub off on us, and we may become hot-tempered as well. If someone is running around with friends that are doing drugs, it's possibly there could be temptation that they would try to get you to partake in those drugs or alcohol or whatever. And so it's important to be careful of the friends that we keep. Now, we're going to be looking at a video clip from Pastor Craig Rochelle. He's the pastor of Life Church. And just to kind of set up the clip, he was talking about Jesus, and he was saying that, of course, Jesus is a friend of sinners. Jesus, he desires to reach out to people and to be their friend. But at the same time, Jesus did have an inner circle of followers and friends, and so he had the apostles. He had the 12 apostles, and they were, his basically those that he was close to. But then he also had an inner circle of 3. And so that would have been Peter, James, and John. And those were his closest friends. And so we kind of see from the model of Jesus' life that we're not to neglect broader friendships, but we're also called to have an inner circle of friends. And so we will begin then. Dan will play the clip.
Access. I've got an image to show you that's just kind of will give us an idea of what this would look like. Let's just say this is all the people in the world. What we're going to want to do in our lives is we're going to want to choose prayerfully, because the righteous choose their friends carefully. This would represent the inner circle of our friends. If you are a follower of Jesus, and I hope that you are, we're going to choose carefully who we put into this circle. This is going to be the people that this is our ride or die buddies, okay? These are the people that are going to challenge us. We're going to pray together. We're going to love everybody out here. We're going to reach out to everybody here. But this group is going to be very intentional of who we give direct access into our lives. People don't get into the inner circle by accident. We choose who is in the inner circle. The righteous choose their friends carefully. No matter who anybody is, we are not going to let anybody anywhere in this sphere take us away from God's will. We are committed to follow God, and even if an inner circle friend goes awry, we're not going to give them the ability or permission to lead us astray from God's will. Jesus even did this in the New Testament when he said, I'm going to have to give my life one day, and someone from his inner circle, Peter, said, no, well, you can never, ever die. And Jesus looked back at him and said, get behind me, Satan. Now, I don't recommend as a friendship tip that you call your friend Satan to their face, okay? But Jesus said, get behind me, because right now you do not have in mind the things of God, but instead the things of men. No matter where they are on the sphere, we're not going to let anybody take us away from God's will, because it is our highest priority to serve him. So what happens when we wake up one day and we realize, I've got an inner circle friend that's tempting me to do something that's unwise or not pleasing to God? What happens when I have an inner circle friend that's saying things that hurts my spirit, distracts me from serving God, and keeps me from being all that God wants me to be? Well, we're never, ever going to be rude. We're never, ever going to be hateful. But there may be a time when we actually want to start to redefine the relationship. We're going to redefine the friendship.
As we reflect on the words of Pastor Craig, I think this is particularly relevant to those that are younger, for those that are in middle school or high school or even college, because peer relationships are so important at that time. And so we're called to have that inner circle of friends that really encourages us and helps us to grow in our walk with the Lord. Now, that doesn't mean that this isn't important for those of us who are a little bit older. We also need to choose our friends wisely, because those who are a good influence on us, those that encourage us, will indeed help us to grow in our walk with the Lord. I know Nick shared several weeks ago, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And so that's our goals. We want to find people that can encourage us, that can help sharpen us, that we may go further in our walk with God. It doesn't mean that we neglect our broader group of friends, because indeed we're called to reach out and be salt and light to the world and to share the gospel to the world. And so we should have all manner of friends, but our closest friends should really share our common values, seeking to live a life as a disciple. This particular verse that I have up, I think, encapsulates this well. But encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. And so if we're around people that have a like-mindedness in seeking to follow the Lord, we can indeed seek to have a soft heart for him. We can help each other be softened and be inclined to the word of God, as opposed to being hardened by sin's deceitfulness. If we're hanging out with people who are a bad influence, then sin's deceitfulness may ensnare us. And so it is the calling of this wise sage in this proverb, that indeed we seek to have that inner circle, those around us who encourage us and seek us to really live a life that's pleasing to the Lord. As we move on in our study of Proverbs 22, the last proverb that we're going to explore is that of working diligently. Saying 6, do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. And so I think maybe one illustration of this, historical illustration, was when the temple was being built. And what happened? People volunteered from all walks of life, manner of skills and trades in Israel in order to have the temple built. But who were the ones that were able to actually partake to the greatest degree? It was those that were skilled in their labor, those that were able to actually design a temple that would stand the test of time, and those that were able to choose the different building materials and to skillfully carve, or to carve out stone, or to provide different aspects of the holy place and aspects of the temple. It was those that were skilled in their work. And we're called to work diligently as unto the Lord. And if we want to be skilled in any manner of life, it does take diligence. There was a book called Outliers by an author by the name of Malcolm Gladwell. And in his book, he talked about this principle that anyone who is really an expert, someone who is really skilled at something, must at a minimum put in 10,000 hours of work. And in discussing his book, he gave this quote: "The 10,000-hour rule says that if you look at any kind of cognitively complex field, from playing chess to being a neurosurgeon, we see this incredibly consistent pattern that you cannot be good at that unless you practice for 10,000 hours, which is roughly 10 years if you think about 4 hours a day." So 10,000 hours is a lot of hours. And And that's the minimum time it would take to be competent in any skilled area. Now, I think there's some caveats that researchers have learned since he wrote this book. And one is that part of becoming skilled means being educated, or maybe means being mentored or coached. I have friends who have definitely spent over 10,000 hours playing golf, and they're terrible. And that is because they just play, and they may do some practicing, but they're not getting coached, and they're not changing their swing, their patterns of playing. And in doing so, they're just reinforcing old habits, and those old habits lead to poor play. And so I think when we do become and seek to become an expert in any field, we do need some help. And also, we need to recognize that some people just have more of a proclivity or interest or ability to do certain things and maybe not do certain things. Not everyone can be a fighter pilot. If you don't have 20/20 vision, I don't think the Navy or the Air Force will even let you try, because you have to have very good vision. There's people who are prodigies in playing musical instruments like the piano or the violin or the cello. And if someone is not musically inclined at all, they may begin their music lessons, and they may gain some proficiency, but they may never get to that very high level, because that just wasn't maybe a skill that they were created for. And so I think that some just thinking along the lines of seeking to be skilled at something is that we need to work heartily unto the Lord and seek to be good at the things that God's calling us to. So if you are a student and you're in school, well, God's calling you to excel in your studies. At least do the best that you can possibly do. And so you need to apply yourself with diligence in those ways. If you happen to be seeking to be really good, maybe at a particular sport or at an instrument, that's great. But it just doesn't happen by waking up and just playing just a little bit here and there. It will take diligence. And as the Lord calls many of you young people to different vocations and majors, that will take time in order for you to gain those skills. And for those of us that are a little older, it's our calling to also to work wholeheartedly unto the Lord and to seek to do everything for His glory, and to try to seek to even improve those things that we may be even somewhat skilled at. That's why in a lot of professions, there's continuing education and there's seminars, because even if you've reached a certain level of proficiency or expertise in a field, there's always more to learn. There's always room to grow. And so our calling is to indeed work wholeheartedly unto the Lord in regard to those things that He's called us to do. And so we seek to answer this question. As a follower of Jesus, how can we apply wisdom to our lives? How can we apply wisdom to our lives? Well, I think these points of application have a similar thread throughout the weeks that we've been studying. First, we are to seek God's wisdom. And we seek God's wisdom by focusing on His Word and seeking to apply His Word to our lives, and seeking to approach life with a biblical worldview, seeking to use God's Word and our life as a disciple as a means of living, as a means of just contemplating how the decisions that we are to make, and just the issues that we're going through. Secondly, we're to reflect on God's wisdom. And so today we reflected on a number of different proverbs. We reflected on a proverb calling us to have a good name, a good reputation. We focused on a proverb saying that we need to treat one another with equal value. We've been challenged to have the right friends, to have that inner circle that can encourage us. And we've been encouraged to work diligently on those things that the Lord has called us to do. And so for each of these particular wise sayings, I think our calling is to reflect on them and to see how they apply to our lives. And then as we seek to just reflect on how they would possibly fit into our lives or how we can live them out, then we actually take the next step in applying God's wisdom, actually living it out, seeking to make changes in our life that we can indeed live a life of a wise person, one who is applying God's truth as we seek to live for him. And so I'm going to close with the lyrics of this song, and it'll be the closing song that we sing today. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path, from Psalm 119, 105. And indeed, as we seek to live a life of wisdom, as we seek to be wise, wise people, wise men and women before the Lord, walking as a disciple, it begins by seeking God and his word, seeking the lamp that will guide our way, and seeking to live it out as we apply his word to our lives. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I do thank you. I do praise you for the fact that you have given us your word, and we thank you for providing wise men and wise women in the Bible and even in our lives to encourage us. And we thank you for the sayings of Solomon, and we thank you for the wise sages that have made their way, the wise sayings from the wise sages that have made their way into Scripture. And help us, Lord, to reflect on those. Help us to apply those to our lives, that we may live a life worthy of your calling. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.